Under the soft sunlight filtering through the plane's small windows, Alma stared in disbelief at the young flight attendant in front of her. Her eyes unlocked a memory of pain and suffering that had been buried for years. It was as if the past, which he had tried so hard to forget, was reappearing in an unthinkable way. That face, that unique feature. Now, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next stories. I wish you a good viewing. Alma had always lived in Bologna, a city that, with its ancient porticos and its welcoming atmosphere, had seen her family grow. She was not a woman who gave up easily, but the weight she carried in her heart was almost unbearable. She had lived the last 25 years as a ghost, trapped in a past that wouldn't let her move on. The loss of her little girl, Sophia, had broken something inside her, a wound that had never really stopped bleeding. Despite everything, she had tried to move forward, to be strong for her son Leo and her husband, but that pain had never left her. Every day, watching Leo grow, her thoughts always returned to that little girl who disappeared into thin air, to that morning that had changed the course of their lives forever. The day had begun like many others. Alma was in the kitchen, preparing lunch while Leo played in the living room. Little Sophia, then just a newborn of a few months, was sleeping peacefully in her crib. She was a serene, sweet child, the center of Alma's world. Leo, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of energy, always on the move, always looking for new adventures. But that morning, fate had something terrible in store. Leo, in one of his games, had fallen and seriously injured his head. Blood, fear, and panic had invaded Alma, who without thinking twice had grabbed Leo and rushed to the hospital. In those hectic moments, she had entrusted Sophia to the care of her neighbor Julia, a kind and caring woman who lived in the apartment across the way. But when Alma returned home, a nightmare awaited her. The crib was empty. Little Sophia had disappeared without a trace. Julia, shocked, could not explain what had happened. She had only been a few minutes late in reaching Alma's apartment, and in that short period of time, the little girl had vanished. It was then that Alma's life changed forever. The investigations, the desperate searches, the days and nights spent praying for a miracle, all proved to be in vain. Sophia was never found, and Alma remained trapped in a pain that no mother should ever feel. Years passed, but that wound remained open. Alma continued to live in that house, unable to abandon the place that had seen her happy, but that had now become a prison. She could not let go of the hope that one day Sophia could return. For this reason, she refused any opportunity to travel, fearing that in her absence the unthinkable might happen, that Sophia might return and not find her. It was Leo, now grown up, who pushed her to take the big step. It was his 28th birthday, and he wanted his mother to accompany him on a special trip, their first trip together outside of Italy. Alma, initially reluctant, let herself be convinced by her son's sweetness. She decided to face her fears, to get out of that invisible cage she had built around herself. On the day of departure, Alma was a bundle of nerves. Not only would she be leaving Bologna for several days, but she would also be facing her first experience on a plane. Everything made her nervous. The thought of flying, of being far from home, of not being able to control what would happen. But she decided to put her fears aside for Leo's sake. Once on board, however, fate had in store for her an encounter that would change everything. The assigned seats separated them, and Alma found herself alone, prey to her growing anxiety. It was then that she saw the flight attendant approach her with a kind smile. If you like the story, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support. She was a young woman with a face that seemed strangely familiar. But what struck her most were her eyes. They had two different colors. At that moment, a flood of emotions submerged Alma. Was it possible? Could it really be her? Her Sophia? Alma fainted. When she came to, her first thought was of that young woman. It couldn't be just a coincidence. Too many details matched, too many emotions stirred inside her. She immediately asked to see the flight attendant, and when she approached again, Alma, her voice breaking with emotion, asked her name. "My name is Eleanor," the young woman replied. But for Alma, there was no longer any doubt. Eleanor was Sophia, her Sophia, the little girl she had lost so long ago. Eleanor, or rather Sophia, was shocked by that meeting. She knew nothing of her past. She had lived her whole life believing she was the daughter of another woman. But now, pieces of memory were starting to resurface. She vaguely remembered a house, a crib, a name embroidered on a diaper, Sophia. With the death of the woman who had raised her, she had discovered that she had never been her real daughter. Now, everything made sense. The flight continued with palpable tension. Alma and Sophia hugged each other between tears and joy, knowing that this was only the beginning of a long journey to rebuild what had been destroyed so many years before. Alma finally felt a peace that she had not felt in decades. Her Sophia was alive, and even if the path to knowing each other again would be difficult, they were ready to do it together.